Not that I needed any more reasons to quit drinking, but I just gave myself another one.
Hey, poor! Hey, poor! Hey, poor! You don't have to be poor anymore! Jesus is here!
Quite an experience to live in fear, isn't it? That's what it is to be a slave.
Man, you are one twisted fuck.
Nope. I'm just an ordinary guy with...
America! Fuck yeah! Coming again to save the motherfucking day! Yeah, America! Fuck yeah!
Greetings, fellow worker slaves, podcasting at 128 kilobits from the Fortress of Squalitude. This is the Atheist in the Trailer Park podcast. I'm your host, Tucker. Professor Fuzznuts and Buttons are curled up asleep on my bed. Yes, it's a podcast hosted by a guy and his cats. Get over it. This was supposed to be a happy episode, or at least part of it would have been. But I fucked it up. No other way to say it. I fucked it up because I'd had too much to drink and said things that I shouldn't have. I have wrecked one of the best friendships I've ever had and done other things as well, but the friendship was the most important part of all of it. I've told America I'm sorry, but that, of course, doesn't undo the damage. Let me get to the few bright spots I have, and then we'll get into what happened. I took Buttons to the vet yesterday to start her rounds of vaccination and to get her checked out for FIV and FLV. I need to thank Aaron, Kirsten, Eloise, Denise, Mark, and Steve for making that possible, as their donations, along with Peg's, covered the costs. I'm not sure if I'll have enough to get her and Fuzznuts fixed, as this visit was as much as what I thought it cost to get her fully vaccinated and fixed. The good news, though, is that she got a clean bill of health from the vet, aside from some worms, which are being treated. They said she can be spayed in about 3 months, estimated her age to be around 8 weeks, and in 3 weeks she goes for her second round of shots. The FIV was what I was really worried about. There's no longer a vaccine for it, so if she'd come up positive, not only would I have to deal with her dying prematurely, but I'd have to keep her and Fuzznuts apart, and they are great friends. Another bright spot is that I should be having a guest on next month, and it's someone I've really wanted to have on, but never thought he'd agree to it. That's Bruce Carlson of the My History Can Beat Up Your Politics podcast. If you're a fan of history and don't listen to his podcast, stop what you're doing right now and go listen to it. Guy's brilliant. He takes a story in the news today, finds an event in American history which is similar, and then compares the two. Many times these are rather unexpected comparisons, and not just obvious ones like the controversy swirling around Trump and Nixon's impeachment. He also can guide you down a path where it seems obvious the direction he's taking, then suddenly flip things on you, and you realize that it's all just a prelude to a larger issue you never expected him to cover. And I will be having another guest next month, and that's Thomas from the Holy Kool-Aid podcast, which will be launching soon. You've probably already heard him on things like Cog Dis. The last bright spot I can't give you the details on because America and I didn't even get to talk about them last night. She's going to be launching a new podcast soon. I don't know the name of it, or if she's decided on a name for it yet. Anyway, she's going to be doing it on books related to Satanism, both the factual types and the nutjob ones. I'll let you know when it launches. Now, to the ugly parts. America and I were supposed to talk about her trip to Utah, her new podcast, and a few other things, but we never got to any of that in the nearly 4 hours we talked. We started out with the bullshit America had to deal with when she got pulled over recently. To me, it seemed that the cops were harassing her because of the color of her skin. We then moved on to things involving the legal system and car insurance, the economy, and then things went south. Somehow, and I don't understand how things migrated there, we got to talking about hair and race. In listening back to the conversation, I don't even remember half of the things that we said. Clearly, I need to quit drinking is all I can say about what happened. And yes, as of right now, there is no booze in the place. I'm not going to try to defend what I said. I'm just going to put it out there as America wanted and leave it at that. This isn't the whole conversation because even taking out the times when I had to go pee, it's still nearly 4 hours. Nobody would listen to that. You're going to hear the last hour of our conversation, which contains the part that America wanted me to put out. If she asks, I'll chop the other parts up into hour-long segments and put them out. I've already told her this via Facebook, but she hasn't replied to me as of yet. And at this point, I really don't know what else to say. I've apologized to America. I apologize to everyone else. I've promised America I won't do it again. I've quit drinking. And I don't know what else I can do but put this out there and hope that my ignorance hasn't cost me a friendship or driven the rest of you away. There's not going to be an outro for this episode, so when you hear America hang up on the Skype call, that's the end of the show. It wouldn't be appropriate for me to do anything else, I don't think. So here I am in all my drunken ignominy. I looked up to, who had taught, but because of bullshit regulations that are tied into things that have no relation to ethnicity, got himself, begging for a job at the local community college here in Ass Rape, Tennessee. Prior to this, he'd been at TSU. It's like, and he'd sitting there telling me, it's like, oh, this is such a different experience than what I had at TSU. I mean, a good-looking woman is a good-looking woman regardless of her ethnicity. And this guy, I know, if he saw someone who was pretty, who was Asian, wouldn't have thought anything about it, but because he had taught at TSU for a while, was like, she's black, so I can't consider her pretty, even though she is.
So he's a racist.
Yes, but he's like a lot of white people.
So a lot of white people are racists.
Well, I'd say all of us are. Just because we don't, most of us, as I've said in the past, because we don't put on a pointy hat and go around a flaming cross, we don't think we're racists, but we are. And I know I've mentioned this to you before, that there's times I've said things that I'm like, gosh, I'm worried that this is horribly racist. Not that I mean it to be, but I realize I'm ignorant about a lot of things, so I could say something which seems innocent to me but is in fact racist.
I am always very...
No, I know you're forgiving.
No, it's not that I'm forgiving. I think people use racism incorrectly. I make it, perhaps insensitive or prejudiced or ignorant comments all the time, but racism for me is a very it's a very specific thing.
Right. I understand. But at the same time, like you you had that issue with your hairstyle at your work, and yet some white chick showed up with dreadlocks, and that was perfectly okay.
Oh, yeah. I went natural. I basically I'd been chemically straightening my hair for... I was 3 when they started, and I stopped doing this in 2013. So I was 25 when I stopped. So for 12 years of my life, every 90 days, I got a chemical straightener on my hair. And I just stopped doing that. I let my hair grow out and I went natural. And so I started growing an afro. And they reported it as nappy and unprofessional. But then some white woman with waist-length dreadlocks that was filled with beads and fucking braids. Or beads and fucking feathers and weird bullshit. She has like... she had a seashell put in her hair. Somehow they like cut her dread, or there was a shell with a hole in it, and they basically then fixed her hair so that the shell would then be grown into her hair. And I was furious as this woman in human resources is telling me that she thinks my hair is just the result of a bad perm and it doesn't look good and I need to change it. But she thinks this woman with fucking feathers and seashells and beads growing in her hair is eclectic and fun. Waist-length dreadlocks. Tucker, we work in a lab. A lab. Her hair, like, it's a violation of policy in the fact that it can't be, like, she can't take a scrunchie and put it in a bun and put it at the top of her head. So that was one of the, like, determining factors. If you have long hair, you need to be able to, like, put your hair up off your neck and out of your face. But her dreads were so long, she couldn't have done that. I mean, she could have tried. I would have loved to have seen that happen, but she's waist length, like, oh my God, it was fucking horrible. And so white people had to explain to another white woman that an afro is how my hair fucking grows out of my head.
Okay. Now...
So that was that situation.
I have been told that, you know, if a white person, because most of us don't have curly hair or kinky hair, if we want to do dreadlocks, we have to have extensions put in, and they will train the hair to grow in such a way.
No.
You know, I don't know. It's not something I've worried about. I just... I'm so confused. And it's not your fault. I'm just trying to figure all this out. I mean, you know, because people with straight hair envy people with curly hair. Whether it be, you know, somebody who has a natural wave or somebody who has hair that curls up kinky, like people who are traditionally African American, but I can assure you there are plenty of white people who have the same hair. What's his name? The dude who was the father in the Brady Bunch, his hair would do that.
What?
Yeah, you didn't know this?
I don't... Who's the man that... I don't know who you're talking about.
Okay, well, you're familiar with the original Brady Bunch and not the movies they did a few...
No.
Okay. The original Brady Bunch was a TV series late 60s.
No, I'll just Google it because I don't. So what are you trying to tell me about the man?
Okay,
in
the guy the actor who played the husband, he had naturally kinky hair. I mean, it would curl up like an afro.
So I think you're confusing terms. He has naturally curly hair.
Right.
Kinky hair is... I'm not sure I've ever met a white person that I would ever describe
Well,
they would have to be a mixed race black person for me to describe their hair as kinky.
Well, who the fuck knows? But they did a Brady Bunch Goes to Hawaii couple episodes, and his hair curled up, not quite as much as someone who had black ancestry, but really darn close. And he used, up until that point, relaxers and straighteners so he could have a normal hairstyle. And I'm putting normal hairstyle in huge quotes. So it may not have been as curly as somebody who's African American, but it was damned close.
What? Tucker, I think you need to hang out with more black people, because I'm looking at this man's hair. Nobody would say that's close to what I have. Nobody.
Are you seeing it when it's curly or when it was straightened?
I'm looking at photos of him in the Hawaii episode.
Okay. I mean, I'm seeing. I'm not denying your point. Okay. So don't think that I am. But it's kinky. It's curlier than most white people have. Whether you agree to that?
I mean, no, because I know lots of people. Again, these are not the best photos, but Tucker, he just has curly hair, and it's longer than most men grow now. And dudes could wear product for all I know. I don't see a whole lot of dudes that have hair as long as his. So I can't even say if that's curlier than most white people. Not for women, especially. I met a woman the other day that had perfect curls in her hair. And it was just this like Farrah Fawcett lion's mane of curls coming out of the top of her head. But in no way would I call her an afro.
Okay, that's...
And our hair texture isn't anywhere near the same. Here's a key feature between the two. How wide of a comb do you need to get through it? So like my afro, you couldn't use a standard comb and comb through my afro.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. I know that I have a friend who had, he's black, or he's white, his wife is African American, and where they live, she had to spend a long period of time finding somebody who could do her hair right.
Right. But how often does that ever happen for white people? Even if you have super curly hair.
No, I completely understand, because I know there's different characteristics. Damn. But, like, my father has curly hair, but it's generally referred to as wavy. And, I mean, you wouldn't even know that he had it just by looking at photographs of it, but because I knew him for so many years, it's like, yeah, I can see the curl. But in the later on in the Brady Bunch series, whatever the guy's name was, he let his hair go for, he stopped straightening his hair, and it looked an awful lot like my pubes. Granted, not necessarily as tightly curled as people who are from Africa, because I've seen, African Americans who let their hair go out into an afro and it's got a certain shape, and I've seen people who were, photographs of people who were born and grew up in Africa and have no non-African ethnicity, and their hair is slightly different. But he definitely had some serious curl to his hair that for a lot of his life he put chemicals in there to get rid of, and it was only after the Brady Bunch Hawaiian episodes that he was convinced to let it go more or less natural. But I mean, how kinky is your hair?
Without a straightener.
Exactly. That's my question.
If I put chemicals in it and play with my hair and try and define each individual curl, you can tell I have curls. If not, it's just a super dense mass of hair on the top of my head. You cannot, I mean, with a wide tooth comb, yeah, you could not take a standard comb and get it through my hair.
Right.
At all.
Right. But you
it's the hair that, like, it's actually genuinely a pain in the ass, because I would walk around it, especially during the fall. I would be in work and discover I have leaves in my hair because they've just embedded themselves in there and I wouldn't notice.
Okay. I'm not laughing at you. I'm laughing at me.
No, it was fun because my coworkers would have to tell me, America, did you walk under a tree? Because now I've got to, like, pick things out of your hair. Sweetheart.
No. I'm laughing at me because when I was in my early 20s, I had this phobia about buying a comb, so my hair was really fucked up. So, but my point in asking about that is, just that you agree that there's a range of curliness to people's hair.
Yes.
So, and if I was sober, I could make my goddamn point, but I'm not, so I can't, and I'm sorry.
That's okay.
No, it's not. You are. It frustrates me because in every way you are absolutely my equal, regardless of gender, ethnicity, or whatever. And yet, because we grow up in this society where people are valued because of their skin color or their hair shape or whatever, there's perceived a difference, and it bothers me.
Well, it is okay to recognize that there are differences because, again, my hair naturally is different.
Right.
And it's perfectly okay to recognize that.
Right. And
we just should, and in negative ways, treat people differently.
Right. And I've told you about that gal that I saw when I was taking the bus to and from Nashville, who was, she was in her early 20s. She was black, but her hair was natural, but her clothing design, that she wore was, this beautiful hybridization of 60s fashion and modern fashions. And I was afraid to say, God damn, you look good. Because
that would have been weird for her.
Yeah, I didn't want to be the creepy old man who walked up and, yeah, you're old enough to be my daughter, but damn, you look good. And it wouldn't have mattered her race or anything like that. But but she was, she could wear things you could buy at any store today and look fine with her hair, but she also had enough fashion sense that she could buy things from, the 60s or any other era and wear them and look just as beautiful. And it wasn't, it wasn't, her ethnicity added to her beauty, but it wasn't that she was beautiful because she was black. It was because she knew who she was and how to work with what she had. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And that's, I run up against that a lot of times because whatever somebody wants to be, gay, straight, bi, trans, anything in between, I'm fine with. But I don't know all the correct terminology to say, to talk about it. And I don't want to say something that's offensive to that particular individual. And as I've said to you before, I kind of shape how I talk about you because I don't want to say something that puts you at risk. And, if you were a guy, and potentially, I don't know, if you were white, I wouldn't have those same concerns. And it bothers me. I don't like having to do that.
Well, as long as you don't give out my address, Tucker, there's nothing really you could say that puts me at risk. Don't give out my address.
Well, regardless of anything, I wouldn't do that without your permission. But, it still bothers me. It bothers me that I have to worry about it because of your gender. I have to worry about it because of your race. And that I have, just have to worry about it.
There's no need to worry about that. Trust me. Remember, this is Arizona. I'll just fucking shoot them. Don't even worry about it.
But you don't understand. I mean, I walk to work. There are cars that stop. I don't think anything about, getting into those cars and going to work. I don't care. And
yeah,
I know, and I'm smart enough to know that the reason I don't have to worry is because I'm a white male. If I were a white female, I'd have to worry about it. If I were a black female or an Asian female or a Latina, I would have to worry about it. And it bothers me. I don't like that. I want everybody just to be able to, somebody, they're walking along, somebody stops, they look like a serial killer, but fuck it, you're going to get in because the odds are you're not going to get murdered. But that doesn't happen with everybody, and that bothers me. It really does. And you're silent. So, no. I've done something.
No, you haven't done anything, Tucker. I was just giving you a beat to see if, there was more, but thank you, Tucker, for being concerned. And the best way is to just, go about your daily life and call out people on their bullshit if you see it. Right.
I try, but...
Good. That is... And also, don't try and kidnap people. So, these are all the ways in which you can help make the world a better place. Don't try and kidnap people. Call out people if they want to kidnap people. And keep talking about not kidnapping people.
But, it just bothers me because I know that if I were a woman, regardless of ethnicity, doing the kinds of things that I do, they couldn't do them because they'd be so scared. Well, son of a bitch, this person stops, offers me a ride, I'm going to get killed. And, most of the people who stop and give me rides are men. And I know that's because they're like, well, this guy ain't going to kill me or whatever. But I also, at the same time, realize that a woman seeing a man stop for them is going to think, this fucker's gonna rape me, and that bothers me. I because I've gotten in the car with some people who are pretty scheming looking, and I would have said, if you showed me their photo, I'd be like, yeah, that's a serial killer. But because I'm a man, I don't fucking care. They ain't gonna hurt me.
You should probably care, because some dude in, like, Pennsylvania just murdered 4 guys.
Yeah, I know, but statistically speaking, regardless of gender, ethnicity, etc., most people aren't murderers. But no, I do understand in an intellectual standpoint why people would be afraid of somebody, even though I can't grasp it on an emotional level. Because, I've had umpteen women tell me, gosh, you look kind of creepy, even though I would never do anything to a woman to harm her. I wouldn't rape a woman. I mean, I might inadvertently, because I'm a douchebag and don't understand things, say something that was considered sexual harassment, but I wouldn't deliberately do that. But I also have been educated the fact that, most women actually do think they are going to be raped every day.
Yeah, that is a thing that I constantly worry about.
See.
Because it's summer now and I want to go running, and there's only about an hour in the day, right 30 minutes before sunset and about 30 minutes after, when it's not incredibly hot, and I can go running and the sun hasn't fully gone down, or I've got to get up at sunrise, which is at 4:30 in the morning. And now I just stay up till sunrise and go running.
Yeah, that's just mind blowing to me. For guys, being raped is hugely traumatic concept. Ned Beatty, who is in the movie Deliverance, which you haven't seen, but he gets raped in that. And he talks about that in interviews I've seen where he's like, well, this is the most horrific experience a man can endure. But, guys don't think about that. So, some random car stops. I don't care about the ethnicity of the driver or anything like that. I just get in. Whereas I know a woman is going to be like, well, this is, a guy, so I have to worry about getting raped. So maybe I won't get in the car. Me, I don't care. And that bothers me.
So here's something I'm going to tell you for the episode. You definitely probably want to put a trigger warning right around the beginning of this discussion. Because it's not a problem for me, but I know people who it is a problem for. The discussion of rape and even the word can be an issue for some. So just an FYI, before this gets released, while you're editing, you need to put a warning and probably a 3 or 4 second break so people can decide whether or not they want to listen to this part. Just because I love you.
Okay, go ahead.
No, I meant the part that you're saying.
Darling, I have released...
Because you've said rape 10 times.
I have released worse than this without any kind of warning. And, I mean, I have... on multiple occasions, I have referred to myself as a racial slur, which is normally applied to people who have a higher melanin account or
Oh my God, Tucker! Don't do that.
well, no, and it's not because because obviously, a lesbian can walk into a store and nobody will know anything about her. They won't know she's a lesbian or whatever. But damn it, I have gotten myself in the wrong spot. My point is that if you are at a certain economic level, people have they don't recognize you as human. So being called certain terms doesn't mean that damn it. Let me get my head straight for a moment, okay?
Okay.
But I know perfectly well that you walk into a store, people are going to stare at you simply because of your ethnicity. Right? They're going to...
Sometimes, yeah.
Yeah, depending on where you are, blah, blah, blah. They're going to say, well, this is a black person, they're probably going to steal from us. Not true in your case, but that's the stereotype. And they have an attitude towards people who are not white based on their skin color. And my feeling is that wealthy Americans feel the same way about poor Americans, the same way that racists feel about people who aren't white. And so I consider it a badge of honor to be referred to as a racial slur for people who aren't my particular ethnicity, because I am poor. And so you can,
Are you talking about the N-word, Tucker?
Yes, ma'am, I am. And believe me, I know that there are huge differences. But if somebody called me a beaner, for example, because I am kind of brown since I walk a lot and I've gotten tanned, I wouldn't consider that offensive, because if you're thinking somebody has lower value in society due to their skin color, their ethnicity, whatever, that's a fault on your part, not on mine. Because, if you're going to... And I'm paid less than $12 an hour. If you're going to pay somebody less than $12 an hour, you're doing that because you don't consider them to be a human being. If you consider them to be a human being, you think of them as equal as you.
Yes.
And so, I don't know of another term which has, the kind of emotional impact, because certain phrases, and you know exactly what I mean, have a deeply gut impact on an emotional level.
Yes.
And, I don't feel, if somebody refers to me by those terms, I don't feel insulted by it, I accept it and I acknowledge it in the sense that, well, that's not saying bad things about me. That's saying bad things about you because you think that's what I am. And it wouldn't matter what my ethnicity was, you would still refer to me as that because of my income level. Have I made myself clear?
Yes.
I mean, you know, you are better educated than I am. You are highly intelligent, and you know, if let's say we were competing for a job, if you got the job over me, I would be fucking happy for you. But if, say, we were both competing for the same job, we both had the same educational levels, and somebody who, regardless of what their background was, they had gotten their degree from Harvard or some other Ivy League university, and they were the ones who got the job. If you had said, well, they won't hire us because we're the N-word, I would be like, you're absolutely fucking right. You and I are equals, and it has to do with, you know, the brand that was put on our education, not with what any of our abilities might be. Am I clear?
Yes. When you're sober, we'll have to talk about that again, because getting called a nigger because you're poor and white isn't the same thing.
No, I agree. And I know you really hate that term, so I don't want to use it around you. And I, you know, not because I don't want to offend you. I respect you as an equal, so I grasp completely why you have your feelings about it, and they are completely valid. It's my point is that I don't know of anything that could have the same kind of level of gut punch for decent human beings that particular term would have. If you know of one, tell me of it, and I will happily use it to refer to myself.
Okay.
I'm serious. I am literally serious, because I mean there's no difference between you and I. You have your expertise in certain areas. I have mine and mine, and I am more than willing to admit you are smarter and better educated than I am. But there are ample number of people who would consider us to be equals, not because of our educational level so much as just because they have such a great contempt of other people. And, you know, the only way I know to express that is to refer to a term that reflects a particular ethnicity, which I don't happen to be. I mean, you want to go on this and tell me why I'm being a total fucking idiot? I am all ears. I really am, and, you know.
Because, Tucker, you're white.
No, I agree. And I know I have privileges that you don't have. I'm a white...
Right, so for no other reason...
Right. I mean, on my worst day, when I look like the homeless motherfucker that I could potentially be at any moment, I can walk into a convenience store. Ain't nobody going to pay attention to me, but they're going to pay attention to you and think you're going to steal because you're black, regardless of the fact that you know, drive a nice car and have made way more money.
So so now you've decided to co-opt a word that doesn't mean the same thing to you as it does to me, because you think that being poor is equal.
I wouldn't say that it's equal, but it is really close.
No.
No, I know what you're saying. Believe me, I know what you're saying, because after all, I mean, I can go, I can put on clothes that don't have holes, even though they may not be Gucci fashions, and pass for somebody who's not, on the verge of being homeless. I've got that, and
Tucker, you can tomorrow not be poor. You could tomorrow win the lottery and not be poor.
Well,
and so now you've changed. Even if that's where you come from, tomorrow you could win $100 million and not be poor. There will never be a day in my life in which I'm not black.
I agree. There are differences. I do agree, because, I mean, I can put on, I can wear slightly better clothes than I often do, and I can walk into a place and nobody will pay attention to me. And I understand that. But at the same time, my employer, and most of the employers I've had, probably 99.9% of them, still don't consider me to be human, because I am not college. I don't have a college degree. I've been to college,
but that can change. Tucker, you're talking about situations that can be changed versus ones that can't.
Right.
And trying to use a word to equate the two. You can change your education level, and you can change your income level. You can change jobs, and you could change jobs and never get your degree, and your employer would look at you as human. Those are things that can change.
I understand that. I do. But at the same time, I don't think that I should have to change things about myself to get that recognition.
I don't think you should either.
Right.
But I also think it is the height of personal arrogance to recognize that your situation is one that can be changed and still think that it is okay to use a word to describe people that cannot change. The thing that makes that word used for them.
And
Tucker, you shouldn't want to be called a slur ever. It's not a badge of honor, and it is only ever a bad thing.
I understand what I can't argue with you, but at the same time, I'm not trying to argue with you, okay? Please, you're a good friend. I want for everybody, for the privilege that I have, because I'm a white male, and I'm a white cisgender male, I want everybody to have those same privileges. But if somehow I'm referred to by a slur, whether it be because I'm called gay or other terms, I don't care. I want everybody in the world to be, to feel the way I do. Do you get what I'm saying? I don't want to demean your experience, because I know I can't. There's no way I can grasp huge amounts of it. Parts of it I can certainly understand, but I can't grasp all of it. And I want you to be able to move around freely in society as I do, no matter your gender, your race, or anything. And I want, you know what, I want us all to be equal. And if somehow I don't end up getting to be able to do anything more than live in this beer can, but everybody else gets to live their goal, that's fine with me. But America, I don't, you know, I respect you as a human being. I don't care about your ethnicity or orientation or whatever. I respect you because you are an intelligent person.
Thank you.
And you know, I know some of what you've gone through. You've told me about it, and the fact that you are who you are is remarkable. And your race, your gender, none of that has anything to do with the fact that you are so remarkable. Because anybody in those situations who just fucking wound up living in a van by the river, it would be understandable to me. And the fact that you've somehow managed to pull yourself beyond that is worthy of respect.
Thank you.
And I don't pretend to understand the entirety of what people go through because they're not white or they're not male. But, you know, I respect them because they've done so much. You know, the TGIA feminist group, most of the posts there are by guys. That bothers me. It should be, you know, 50-50 at the bare minimum, if not majority women.
I am in so many groups. I forget about that one. I'll probably be more active because I just got kicked out of a bunch.
But you get my point. I mean, it should, that group should be 50-50 or.
I mean, men could be feminists too. I don't know enough about the group. I don't know if what you're trying to say is they're trying to lead the discussion. I'm not active enough to.
Right. No, but I would expect in a group like that the women would have a higher number of posts. And, you know, there are things that are posted in that group that it's like, wow, that really bothers me. And I don't know if the women in the group are like, well, that's just the way things are, so, you know, sort of a spousal abuse situation where they think that's normal, though somebody who was raised in a healthy environment would say, no, absolutely, it's wrong.
I would need to be more active in the group to.
Right. I mean, but you know, you feel the need to ever call me a dumbass cracker, go right the fuck ahead. I will not think less of you. I want, you know, I want to do the best I can to understand the situation of people who aren't me. And I think I've just, crossed some horrific line.
I just, at this point, I don't even know what to say anymore.
Now, I mean, you know, putting aside issues of race, gender, etc., I consider you a good friend. I really do. You're one of the few people I can trust that I can talk to who will give me an answer even if I don't like it, but they'll mean it from a good place. And I don't think about other issues in that situation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I'm, I know my circle of people is small, limited, and there's reasons for it based on geography, based on personality, things like that. And I don't mind somebody helping me overcome those things. And if you feel you need to say, well, use a dumbass white boy, use the dumbest white boy I've ever seen, I will accept that. I don't care. I want you to be able to feel the way I do when you go out in the world and do things. And if that means I'm belittled or I have to realize that I'm being a dipshit about some things, that's fine. I'm glad for that. I want you to be able to enjoy everything that I enjoy, and I know that at least as the way things work now, you can't do that because of your race and because of your gender. That's like I was trying to say before, when I had my girlfriends, I've tried to teach them, well, this is how you fix your car. I don't care if you actually ever work on it, but at least you understand what's involved in it. So if somebody tells you it's $7,000 to change your oil, for a damned good reason that they're fucking with you.
Right.
I mean, it really does bother me that there are times when things happen and it's like I don't know if I'm in this situation because of I'm white and somebody's black. I don't want to have to think about that. I don't want to have to think about gender. I just want to have to say, well, okay, this person can't do what I can do, so that's obviously why they're not getting paid what I'm paid. That's what I want, but all too often it's like, well, they're not being paid what I'm paid because they're a woman or they're black or whatever. And I don't like that. And I know that there are things that I might believe or think or whatever, and they're probably wrong because I'm a white guy and I live in this world that, helps white people and particularly white males. So if if I'm somehow benefiting from that privilege, I want to know about it so I can say, hey, this shouldn't be done. I mean, if you need money, I will, and you start a GoFundMe, I will pimp the shit out of that more than I will the GoFundMe I've got going now. Or any other. Just, because I want you to be able to have a decent life. And, before you lost your job, you were making double, at minimum, what I'm making. Or the highest income I've ever had. I don't have a problem with that. I think that's more just the way society works and the fact that they recognize college degrees than they do intelligence, but that's beside the point. I want you to be taken care of, and, if you tell me tomorrow, hey, I need money and I've got a GoFundMe campaign, I'll pimp the shit out of more than I will the one I've got going to get me to fix my deck roof.
Well, thank you, Tucker. I will, if that ever happens, I'll let you know.
And please don't hesitate to tell me I'm being a douchebag or whatever. I can't say I'll change, but I'll at least recognize that. it's hard for me because they're, white people, unless we wear a hood and are standing in front of a burning cross, it's hard for us to recognize we're being racist. But I know that we all do that, and having read the accounts of people who were slaves and things like that, I empathize with him, but at the same time I recognize my life is slightly better. But I don't want, somebody stops while I'm walking to work and says, "Get the fuck in, I'll take you to where you're going." I know it's because I'm a white male that I don't have to worry about that, but I would want anybody, regardless of gender or race, to be able to say, "Yeah, sure, I'll do that." And I know that's not possible, but that's what I want.
Well, I think we would all like to get there one day, Tucker.
Yeah. But seriously, please don't, not that you're ever want to bite their tongue, but especially with me, please don't be afraid to tell me that I'm a douchebag. I can't, I will do what I can to change myself, because I want everybody to live like I do, even if it's not the greatest. But when you said, "Hey, I got laid off," the first thing I did on the podcast, because I know you don't listen, and not that I listened, but the first thing I did was I told everybody, I said, "You lost your job. If I said, I don't know if you needed a GoFundMe or not, but I promise you I will promote the shit out of it if you do, because you're a good person, and that's all that matters."
Well, thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead and speak your mind, because I know you've got stuff whirling in there.
I don't... I just never again want you to refer to yourself as the N-word. And also, I'm just kind of hungry. We've been on this for like 4 hours.
I know. But, I mean, if you can think of a term which would apply to folks saying a certain subsect of humanity aren't human, I will happily adopt that term. Because, that's what people, if you're poor, that's what people think of you. Obviously, there are additional levels if you're a minority, but you don't listen to the show, so you don't know, but I dumped an episode this past week which I referred to myself as the N-word because, it was fairly obvious from the shit my employer is doing that they don't consider me human. And what I want is a word for people that hits folks in the gut. And I don't know what it is. I mean,
Tucker, you never again can do... Like, I get what you're wanting. You want something that's equal so that people understand.
Right.
But do you remember when my coworker did this same thing?
You've had so many issues out of your coworkers.
Okay. Where my coworker got mad because he was asked to do what is his fucking job. And he said he felt like the nigger in the lab.
Right. Okay. The reason I referred to myself is that...
But Tucker, there never should be.
No.
So I get why, but I'm saying from here on out, you can't do that ever again, or we can't be friends.
Okay.
Like, this is a hard line I'm drawing.
I'm not going to argue with this point with you because I know what you're saying. Can we figure out something? I mean, because, you say... Because...
But Tucker, people get it. Without you needing to create a slur, people get it. If you're saying that your employer doesn't pay you and they see you as subhuman because you're poor, because you don't have a car, because you live in a trailer, people get that. You don't need to create a slur
but
for that to be seen.
Let me ask you a question, though. If I use the term serf, you know what a serf is, of course.
Yes.
Right. But does that bother you on an emotional level as a slave?
No.
Okay. See, I want something that bothers people.
But why, Tucker? Why do you want to create a slur for yourself?
Because I don't know of...
Here's something else I'm going to say. It is also the height of arrogance that you want to create a slur to describe yourself. I cannot even imagine being in that situation.
Okay.
I want slurs to go away, and you're trying to create one.
Okay. Let me ask you this question. If I called you a serf, how offended would you be?
I wouldn't be offended.
All right. If I referred to you by the N-word,
we would never speak again.
Exactly. My goal is to refer to people who are at the same income level as myself, or, well, anybody who is not in the 1%, okay? I don't care race, gender, ethnicity.
Tucker, stop it. Wait, just... It's like wanting a slur to describe, I don't know, men that are stay-at-home fathers. Don't.
No.
It is arrogant, and it is ignorant, and it is fucking ridiculous that you want to create a slur for yourself. And in not being able to find one, you then decide that it is acceptable to use a slur racially. That has nothing to do with you, despite knowing... Tucker, you have a black co-host, and you call yourself... Tucker, I have to go. I can't even continue this discussion right now.
No, I understand. I understand where you're going with this, and you're okay.
I'm sorry. I have to let you go. I'm so sorry.
Please don't. I know what you're doing. And I'm not. My.
Tucker.
I don't want it to be a slur, okay?
But Tucker, I'm sorry. I need to let you go. I'm that upset. I need this to be done. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I will talk to you later. I'll talk to you later, Tucker. I have to go. I'm so sorry. Goodbye.